Hey, what is going on everyone? Welcome back to another Clash Royale video, and in today's video we are going to be taking a look at the 2v2 sudden death mode challenge. Now what is this challenge, you might ask? Well, that's quite self-explanatory folks. It's basically a match where you start off in sudden death. Now this challenge is also being hosted during the month of 2v2, so naturally Supercell will have us paired up with random teammates really. Now before we move on, I would like to make mention that the link to download the Clash Royale Amino app is in the description down below, so do check it out. Whether you have iOS or Android, I have a link to both of them down there, so do check it out if you have the time. Now anyways folks, so you might be wondering about the event itself, so let me just give you a brief idea of what it's about. So basically there's gonna be 3 minutes of gameplay only. Yep, you heard me correctly there folks, 3 minutes of gameplay alone. Now since you're gonna be starting off in overtime, it goes without saying that you're gonna be playing in double elixir as soon as the match starts, so be cautious of that because things are gonna be moving pretty darn fast. And did I also mention before, you're also gonna be having your random partners as always, so yeah, things aren't gonna be so fun when you can't have your reliable teammates, so please just keep that in mind when you're going out into battle there. And while we're talking about just keeping things in mind, I would also like to make mention that the tournament standard rules will apply, so there will be level caps to the cards. I'm pretty darn sure that you all would be familiar with what these are by now, so I won't waste time going into detail on that. Now, another thing that you should remember when going into this challenge is that the decks that you had equipped before clicking the battle button is what you are going to be using. So choose your decks wisely and remember to use appropriately leveled cards. It doesn't matter if they are over leveled, they will be leveled down to suit. But if they are under leveled, they will not, I repeat, they will not be leveled up. So keep in mind that you need to use cards that are at least tournament standard. So yeah, just keep that in mind guys. And the matches are gonna be very fast paced due to the fact that it is going to be double elixir and the fact that there is just the sudden death mode theme going around. Plus there are going to be 2 decks being played on both sides at once. So yeah, time is limited and you have to make a lot of things happen within those 3 minutes. So you're probably wondering, what do I do or how do I play this challenge? So the answer to that is that you're going to be taking a single tower within 3 minutes of gameplay there by using specific decks or cards which you think might be helpful for offensive and defensive purposes. Now, if you're wondering about your deck, you should really try to bring a few cards that can help you rush a little bit for some chip damage. And no folks, I am not talking about bridge spam decks. I am not a big fan of those really, and I think they can be asking for a little bit of trouble if you're using them in the 2v2 because you have more cards to really stop them. So yeah, when you are making your decks, try to bring cards that can be useful to both you and your partners, so things that can synergize really well with almost anything. Now, there's something that you should note for this challenge, and that is that there are no comebacks. I repeat, there are no comebacks, and the reason why I say this folks, it's because that you and your opponents are fighting for a single tower, and if your opponent manages to take a tower before you do, well, that means that you lost the game. So that's gonna be it there. Now, you can however turn the tide of events within an instant, and this can be done if your opponent makes a mistake or if you make an accurate prediction which actually pays off. Now the same thing can be said for your opponents. If you make a mistake, they can capitalize on that, and if they make an accurate prediction, they can also reap the benefits. So above all guys, just remember, please play very carefully. Do not be too aggressive. Now I would like to advise you all to avoid being put in a defensive position for the entire match, and this is because your opponents can actually be chipping you away the entire match and they're just pressuring you so much that you can't even do anything on offense. So just be mindful of that and look out for it. So this challenge actually will be testing your ability not only to just work with a random partner, but to a great extent really it is going to be testing your defensive capabilities, because unlike in any other game mode really, every little bit of HP of your tower actually matters. So if you can avoid taking chip damage by using an ice spirit here and there where it's worth, or a tornado or anything like that, do go ahead and do it, because if the damage adds up too much, it may not work out for you in the long run and you will actually suffer a lot more, so do be mindful of that. So as we're on the topic of cards and stuff, you all are probably wondering what sort of decks that you should really bring to this challenge, and I would just say that you should bring some cards again that can do some decent chip damage, or bring spells that you can get very good value out of, and if it's possible, bring some well-rounded beatdown decks. The beatdown decks are doing fairly well, however you just need to play them very carefully. Also, before I forget to mention, some of these cycle decks are performing pretty well. In fact, I used one myself in the challenge that I made, and you can use them like a support deck almost for just helping your ally out a lot. And if you got a good defensive cycle deck, really it can work out pretty decently. Just keep something to chip and have a small win condition of some sort. Now if you're wondering about any deck suggestions, I would advise that you all try the cycle deck that I made down below that you're seeing me use, because it was pretty darn effective at only a cost of 3 elixir. It might lack a high damage dealing spell, but you have the Miner and the Horror as win conditions, and the Executioner, Ice Spirit and Tornado for solid defense, plus the Dart Goblin and Log for some good chip damage overall. So if you do try out the deck, do let me know what you think about it and if you like it or not. Now if you guys are wondering about some cards that you might want to use during this challenge, I have prepared a list here of some cards that I saw were pretty darn effective, so you can consider picking some of these and putting them together, but please note that not all of these cards will go well together, especially if you make an entire deck out of everything listed here. That will not do. So I would advise that you all pick some other cards that you might favor or think would work good with these cards, because they might actually do a better job synergizing than the other cards listed. So our first card is going to be the P.E.K.K.A. Now the reason why I say the P.E.K.K.A. is pretty good is because she can just stomp almost any ground push and just be a flat out counter to almost anything that walks. And when you just finish cleaning up on the fence, you can have a beastly counter push going with her. And now our next card is going to be the Golem. Well, in fact, along with the Golem, I would also recommend using the Lava Hound, because if you can defend any lane really after dropping one of these, remember folks, these cards are very expensive, so when you do drop them, be sure that you can defend. Make sure that you have at least 3 elixir handy after you deploy them, and when you do so, you can just keep the push going and build up really strong pushes, and if your opponents can't deal with them, you can really just brute force push your way for a easy 1 crown win. Now these cards are also very useful because they have their death mechanics. The Golem has his splash damage really when he explodes and dies from his initial form. Then on the Golemites, they really explode as well and do a lot of damage overall. So yeah, consider using that. And the Lava Hound, it's also great because the pups that spawn after, if there's anything else that was there alongside the Lava Hound, it will actually cover for the pups and it will deal massive damage. And now our next card is actually going to be the 3 Musketeers. So the 3 Musketeers is the most expensive card in the game right now. However, if you are thinking carefully about when you are going to play them, you will know that you want to avoid grouping them up together for your opponents to really get easy spell value, and that you need to play them when your opponent just does not have their best counters in hand. So if you can play them carefully and correctly, you will obliterate towers. Trust me guys, if your opponents make the slightest mistake really, they can unload massive amounts of damage on a tower, and let's face it, 1 tower is all you need. So just getting that one opportunity to use them in the right moment in time is all you need to win the match. Now as for our next card, it is actually going to be the Balloon. Now the Balloon is a card that deals some of the most damage in the game per attack, with the exception of Sparky, because let's face it really, Sparky, she does the most damage overall, but she does have her flaws with her charge time and stuff, and she can get countered fairly easily by the Electro Wizard, etc. So yeah, the counters to the Balloon are generally simple, such as an Electro Wizard, a building of any sort, or spam troop such as a minion horde or minions or musketeer. If you can just figure out what your opponent has for you, you can work your way around it and get that balloon to the tower. So trust me, once the balloon connects, it deals massive amounts of damage and it can really punish your opponents for only 5 elixir. And now coming up next is going to be a few spells really here. So the first of which is going to be the poison spell. Now if you remember what I discussed in our last guide, I mentioned that the poison spell covers a lot of area and it creates an area of denial for your opponent really, so they cannot drop certain troops in this area where the poison is cast, and it can just keep your win condition or whatever you dropped in there alive, as well as it can also catch a lot of buildings and just anything your opponent can think to drop. It can really catch them off guard, and if they happen to drop them in the poison, that's just adding on to the value that you invested there with that elixir. And now for our next card is actually going to be something that is going to be very shocking to you all, and that is the freeze spell. Yep, you heard me right there folks, the freeze spell. It is actually very useful in this challenge because the fact that your opponents can't do anything once it is dropped on their troops, they need to just react differently with their spells and other troops available, but if they are broken elixir, it can screw them over really bad. So if you have that ideal push going and you can freeze a lot of things in that small area that it covers, you are going to be able to screw over your opponents very hard there and just walk away with the win very easily. So if you can get a balloon and freeze or something like that going, it can deal tons of damage and pretty much win you the game right there and then. I was actually inspired to just mention the freeze by one of my clanmates named Iceman, because he used a Hog Cycle freeze deck, and when I saw him do one of his battles, it legit ended in a few seconds, so it was pretty insane to watch, and it just changed my opinion of the freeze right there and then after all these months of playing Clash Royale. Alrighty guys, now up next we have the Tornado spell and the Executioner. As always, this is a good combo overall to have in your deck because the Tornado spell allows you to be able to wake up your King Tower really early when you're playing against Hog Riders, Miners, and Goblin Barrels, and the Executioner really just has good area denial, so when paired with the Hog Rider, you can really clear up a push. Now, you can also use the Tornado to just mitigate or even eliminate all damage done by a Hog Rider or Goblin Barrel once you know the correct placements and timings for the spell. So after this, we will also have the Miner, Princess, and Dart Goblin again. Now all of these are great sources of chip damage for the long run, just for a measly cost of 3 elixir. Now these cards can also get really annoying for your opponents really in their own way. The Miner because of his random spawning really, which he can do. And then you have the Princess and the Dart Goblin, who almost always get those few shots off on the tower, and their chip damage really helps out a lot, and they can be both used on defense very effectively for just 3 elixir again. Now after this, we will also have the Graveyard spell. When using Graveyard, you just need one good push really, or two, to take the win for the game really, and since it's just one tower, you don't even need to worry too much about waking up the king once you're able to take that one tower there, because the match ends right there and then. So if you can just wait for those 1 or 2 times to use the Graveyard correctly, like if you have a poison in hand and stuff, it is going to pay off really handsomely there, and you are just going to absolutely crush your opponents. And next on our list is actually going to be the Hog Rider. Now the Hog Rider is a stable win condition really, you just gotta avoid the tornadoes really and defenses. But hey, if you can get him past all of that chaos there, you're going to be very happy with the results, because each swing can make the difference between winning and losing a game really. So yeah, just consider using a Hog Rider if you haven't already. And after the Hog, we will have the Log. Yeah, Hog and Log. So Log is pretty useful overall, especially for some good trades against the Goblin Barrel, Goblin Gang, Princess, and all that jazz. And it is another card like the Tornado that you can use to keep things off of your tower. Because like I said before folks, every little bit of damage actually does matter, so you gotta know when and where to use your Ice Spirit, Log, or Tornado. So yeah, these cards are very helpful in preventing damage, so just be mindful of when you want to use them or not. Now our last 2 cards are actually going to be the Lightning and the Rocket spells. So these are 2 very expensive spells, but they are worth it. The Rocket deals massive damage with each hit, and it just covers a small radius. However, you can make it very worth your while if you can catch a troop or a building while hitting the tower. So just keep that in mind when you're casting your rocket, and it can just help you chip away at your opponent's towers very easily there for some good trades. And where the Lightning is concerned, it is quite similar, except for the fact that it only hits 3 targets with the most HP within a wider area of effect. So this is the more skillful of the 2 cards, I think, because you have to know when and where you want to use it, because it will only hit 3 targets, whereas the rocket will hit everything within its given area of effect. So yeah, just keep in mind when you want to use these cards, and when you don't, they can help you chip the towers in the long run and help you get back in a game that you might have been losing. Now that's gonna be it for the tips and stuff of the challenge really, and now I'd like to discuss something else with you all. So the other night I was viewing one of Clash with Ash's videos, and he made mention of a Hall of Fame. So in this Hall of Fame, he will be helping promote some of the smaller YouTubers out there who have under 50,000 subscribers, to just get their name out there and their channels more recognized. So what you have to do to really get on this list is to be nominated by members of your audience really, and they have to just say why they like your channel and why they think it's helpful, anything that you can think of really that would give good reason why a person should deserve some extra credit for what they do. So if you all think you enjoy the content that I am making, please do help me out to get on that list by writing him an email at cwafacedesign@yahoo.com. I will leave a link to the Gmail down in the description below, so if you all really want to help me out, which I would really appreciate, just write one of those nominations, and if you can get anyone else that you think would enjoy the type of content that I am making to just help you out in sharing the message, just do me a favor and just encourage them if you can. Each nomination goes a long way, so I would really like to get a spot on that list there, and if I do, I would just be so happy because the channel would just finally get the attention that it might deserve. So once again everyone, thanks for viewing, and as always guys, remember, if you keep on digging, you'll eventually strike gold, but even then, keep on digging deeper. You'll eventually come across something even more worth your while. So once again everyone, thanks for stopping by, thanks for all the support, and thank you for 400 subscribers as well. I forgot to make mention of this really the other day, but hey, it's better I mention it now than never, right? So once again everyone, thanks again for all the support, and I hope to see you all in the next one. Peace out guys.